Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going deep on something that I think is super important for small businesses, especially those looking to improve their customer service. AI chatbots. But we're not just talking about what they do, we're going to explore the tech behind them, how they actually work, because, well, you can't truly use something effectively unless you understand it, right?
Absolutely. And one of the most fascinating parts of these chatbots is something called Argo, Retrieval Augmented Generation.
Argo. Okay, what's that all about?
Well, it's basically how the chatbot accesses and then uses all that information to answer questions, you know, accurately and helpfully.
Got it. So Argo is like the chatbot's research assistant, like it goes and fetches the right info from a whole bunch of data.
That's a great way to put it. And it's really important because while those large language models, those LLMs that everyone's been talking about, they're super powerful, but they can also hallucinate.
Hallucinate. You mean like see things that aren't really there?
Kind of, yeah. They can sometimes just make stuff up, invent facts.
Oh, wow. That's not great for customer service.
Yeah,
So our age is like a fact checker,
exactly. It keeps the chatbot grounded, makes sure it's giving real information.
like having a super smart librarian on hand to double check everything. That makes sense. But then how does the chatbot actually use all that data? It must be a lot to process.
Right? And that's where chunking comes in.
Chunking. Okay, now we're getting technical.
Think of it like this. You you wouldn't try to eat a whole pizza in one bite, right?
Well, I might try, but it wouldn't be pretty.
Exactly. You got to break it down into manageable slices. And that's what chunking does. It takes all that information and divides it up into smaller pieces that the chatbot can handle.
So it's all about prepping the data in a way that the chatbot can actually use.
Hmm.
Makes sense, but I'm guessing there's more than one way to slice the pizza.
You got it. There are tons of different chunking methods out there, and choosing the right one is super important.
Okay, now I'm really interested. What are these different methods? Like, what are our chunking options?
Well, we can start with the simplest one, fixed size chunking. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay, so we're just deciding how big each chunk should be and then dividing the text up.
Exactly. But of course, there are some downsides to consider too.
I bet. Like, what if you split a sentence right in half? You lose all the context.
That's a great point, and that's why it's common to have some overlap between chunks. It helps keep the flow of information.
So it's like making sure each pizza slice has a little bit of crust on both sides. I like it, but I bet there are some fancier chunking methods out there too.
Oh yeah, like recursive chunking. Instead of just chopping things up evenly, this method looks for natural breaks in the text.
Natural breaks, like what?
Things like periods, commas, headings, that kind of stuff. It creates a kind of hierarchy within the chunks.
So it's like dividing the pizza along the lines of the
Mhm.
toppings instead of just slicing randomly? Okay, I'm following. But I bet there's even more to this chunking buffet, right?
Absolutely. There's document-specific chunking, which looks at the document itself, the paragraphs, chapters, and uses those as the breakpoints.
So it's like serving different types of pizza based on what the customer orders. A deep dish for someone who's really hungry,
Mm.
a thin crust for someone who wants something lighter.
Exactly. And this method is great when you're dealing with, well, structured documents like reports or manuals.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've got basic slices, gourmet slices, and now custom-made pizzas.
Ah.
What else is there? This is fascinating.
Now, for something truly cutting edge, there's semantic chunking.
Okay, that sounds intense.
It uses something called vector embeddings to group sentences based on their meaning.
Hold on, vector embeddings. That's a new one.
Think of it like this. It's a way to represent the meaning of words and phrases mathematically.
So like the chatbot can actually understand what the words mean,
Yeah.
not just see them as letters?
Exactly. It's like the chatbot is reading between the lines, getting the nuances of the language.
Wow, that's impressive. So semantic chunking sounds super powerful.
It can be. It leads to much more accurate information retrieval.
Okay, we've got basic, gourmet, custom-made, and now AI-powered slices. What else could there be?
Well, there's one more that's still being researched. Agentic chunking.
Agentic. What does that mean?
It basically tries to mimic how humans process information, like starting at the top of a document and deciding sentence by sentence whether to include it in the current chunk or start a new one.
So we're giving the chatbot a taste test and letting it decide how to slice the pizza.
Something like that. But like I said, it's still experimental, computationally expensive.
Right, so maybe not on the menu just yet. But who knows? Maybe someday our chatbots will be master chefs, expertly slicing and dicing information based on their own AI intuition.
Maybe so.
Okay, so we have a lot of chunking options. But how do we choose the right one for our chatbot? I mean, it sounds like there's a lot to consider.
There is, and that's what we'll look at next. We'll explore how these methods perform in real-world situations and how to decide which one is best for you.
Sounds good. I'm already starting to see just how important this whole chunking thing is. It's like the foundation for a good chatbot.
You got it. And the more you understand it, the better decisions you can make for your business.
All right, well, I'm ready to learn more.
Let's do it. So, to really see how much of a difference chunking can make, we should look at a study that actually tested all this out.
Oh, a chunking showdown?
Ah.
I'm in. What did they test exactly?
Well, they wanted to see how well a chatbot could answer questions, accurately using different chunking methods. And for this, they used a pretty well-known language model called BERT.
BERT. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that like a chatbot celebrity?
You could say that. It's really good at understanding language, and they used it as the base for their chatbot experiment.
Got it. So they fed BERT a bunch of information and then saw how well it could answer questions depending on how the information was chunked up.
Exactly. And they focused specifically on semantic chunking, the one that groups sentences by meaning, and compared it to recursive chunking, the one using those structural separators.
Makes sense. So I'm guessing semantic chunking, the one with all the fancy AI, was the clear winner.
Well, that's what you'd think, right? But remember those threshold types we talked about for semantic chunking? Percentile, standard deviation, and interquartile.
Vaguely. They sounded pretty technical. Can we, recap those real quick?
Sure. Basically, those thresholds, well, they decide how similar sentences have to be to end up in the same chunk, like setting the strictness level for the grouping.
Okay, so a higher threshold means the sentences got to be practically twins to be together.
Exactly. Now, to actually evaluate how well each method did, they used a tool called RAGS.
RAGAS. Sounds like a new pasta dish.
Funny you should say that. It's more like a taste test for your chatbot. It measures things like context precision, faithfulness, answer relevancy, and context recall.
Whoa, okay. Break that down for me. What are all those things measuring?
Well, context precision tells us how accurate the chunks are at capturing the relevant information, like making sure the chatbot got all the right pizza toppings.
So high precision means the chatbot is picking the right toppings.
Mhm.
Okay, got it. What about faithfulness? Is that like making sure the chatbot doesn't sneak in any anchovies when I specifically said no?
Exactly. It means the chatbot's answers are based on the info it was given, no made-up facts.
No hallucinated toppings. Got it.
Yeah.
That's important for keeping things, well, trustworthy. What about answer relevancy? I mean, that seems pretty key for a chatbot, right?
Definitely. We want to make sure the chatbot is actually answering the question, not just going off on a tangent.
So no long explanations about the history of pepperoni when the customer just wants to know if you have gluten-free crust.
Exactly. And then finally, context recall, that one basically checks if the chatbot is using all the information it should be, from all those chunks.
So like making sure no crucial pizza ingredients are left out of the recipe.
You got it. So yeah, RAGAS is like a full report card for these chunking methods, grades them on accuracy, reliability, everything.
Okay, impressive. So what were the results of this chunking showdown? Which one came out on top?
This might surprise you, but, well, recursive chunking, the one using the separators, actually did a little bit better than semantic chunking when it came to accuracy.
Wait, really? I thought semantic chunking with all its AI magic would be the best.
It's a good reminder that sometimes a simpler approach can actually be more effective.
So even though semantic chunking sounds super fancy, it might not always be the way to go.
Yep, it all depends on what you're trying to do. It just shows how important it is to think carefully about your chunking strategy, weigh the pros and cons.
It's like choosing the right tool for the job, right? Like you wouldn't use a pizza cutter to chop wood.
Exactly.
This whole study just highlights how important chunking is.
Yep.
It's really the foundation for a good, trustworthy chatbot.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Choosing the right chunking method is key for making sure your chatbot can use all that information properly.
Okay, so we've seen that different methods can really impact accuracy, and it seems like there's no single best option. What kind of things should small businesses consider when making this choice, for their own chatbots?
That's a great question. Well, it doesn't have to be super complicated. You just need to start by thinking about what you actually need the chatbot to do. What kind of info will it be using? How complex will those conversations be?
Okay, so like a chatbot for a simple FAQ page might be totally different from one that's handling in-depth customer support.
Exactly. If it's just basic SAQs, then something simple like fixed size chunking could work great. But for something more complicated like tech support or giving personalized recommendations, you might want something more sophisticated like semantic chunking.
Right, right. And what about the amount of information the chatbot has to deal with? Does that matter?
Absolutely. If your chatbot needs to access a huge knowledge base, then the chunking method needs to be efficient. You don't want customers waiting forever for a response while the chatbot's like digging through mountains of data.
It's like choosing the right size oven for your restaurant.
Right.
A small oven is fine if you're just making a few personal pizzas. But if you're trying to feed a huge lunch crowd, you need something a lot bigger.
Perfect analogy. And just like a restaurant owner thinks about their menu and how many people they need to serve, you need to think about what you're asking your chatbot to do.
So it's all about picking the right chunking strategy for the chatbot's workload
Yeah.
and the type of information it's handling.
Exactly. And this is where, having an expert on board can be a big help. Someone who really understands AI and chatbots. They can help you figure out what you need, test out different methods, and pick the best one for your business.
Speaking of experts, I know Shogini specializes in AI chatbot development.
Yeah.
You guys do consulting too, right?
We do. We've got a great team, and one of our professionals is even NVIDIA Gen AI certified. We love helping businesses use AI effectively.
So for anyone listening who's thinking about using chatbots but feeling a little overwhelmed by all the technical stuff, you're saying Shogini can help.
Absolutely. We can guide you through the whole thing from picking the right chunking strategy to actually building and launching the chatbot. Whatever you need.
That's awesome. It's great to know that there's help out there for businesses that want to use AI but might not have, all the technical expertise in-house.
We want to make AI accessible to everyone. We think it can be a powerful tool for businesses of all sizes.
Well said. This has been a really interesting deep dive into the world of, well, chunking. Who knew something so technical could have such a big impact on customer service?
It really shows you how far AI has come and how much potential it has to change the way businesses operate.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's leave our listeners with something to think about. What's the key takeaway here? What should they remember about AI chatbots?
I think the biggest thing is to remember that choosing the right chunking strategy is super important. It's like building a house. You need to start with a strong foundation. If you get the chunking right, you'll have a chatbot that's, well, efficient, accurate, and really helpful for your business.
Great point. So if you're ready to explore the world of AI chatbots, remember, chunking is key. And if you need any help, Shogini's got your back.
Exactly. We're here to help you make the most of AI.
All right. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And until next time, stay curious.